Welcome back. Not Mr. Cotter, but we are talking Friday the 13th, folks.
Hello, ladies.
The 2009 Friday the 13th reboot almost got a sequel, and the reveal of the opening scene makes Jason Voorhees' long absence even worse. The writers of this script released some pages on Twitter on Friday the 13th, and they gave away some scenes to this play and sequel to the 2009 remake and reboot. So let's go on with this article, and we'll talk about it, and then I will talk about some other things. The 2009 reboot of Friday the 13th could have gotten a sequel, and the reveal of its opening scene makes Jason Voorhees' long absence even worse. The Friday the 13th franchise is one of the most popular and profitable ones in the horror genre, but it's also one of the most troubled ones. Since 2018, the Friday the 13th series has been involved in a complicated battle for the rights to it and its characters, which has prevented the franchise from expanding with new movies or even TV shows, with the last movie being the 2009 reboot that came from Platinum Dunes, produced by Michael Bay, who had no business being anywhere near that franchise. Directed by Marcus Nispel, 2009's Friday the 13th is not a remake of the original movie by Sean S. Cunningham, and instead, reimagining of the first four films. This means that grown-up Jason Voorhees with his iconic hockey mask was the killer in this version, and of course, it took viewers back to Crystal Lake. Friday the 13th was a critical failure, but a box office success, though it wasn't enough for the sequel to be greenlit, which is a real shame now that the opening scene for the sequel has been revealed. We talked about this a little bit on Monday night, as our episode was centered around my take on the 2009 and the fact that I asked the question, was I a little too harsh on it? In some respects, yes. In most respects, no, though. I was not. They did say they had a scene planned on a zip line, which would have been really cool to see somebody get cut in half on that. But let's talk about this scene in question. Scrapped sequel plans for 2009's Friday the 13th sound amazing. Friday the 13th begins with a killing spree by Jason that connects to the main plot of the movie. Jason left only one survivor in the opening kill, Whitney Amanda Brigetti, as she reminded him of his mother. And weeks later, her brother, Clay, arrived at the lake looking for her, with Jason targeting a new group of visitors who agreed to help Clay. The ending of Friday the 13th made way for a sequel, which even got a release date of August 13th, 2010, months after the first movie was released. But by December 2009, it was pulled from its release date and delayed indefinitely before being canceled in 2010. In honor of Friday the 13th, 2023, writers Damian Shannon and Mark Swift shared the script pages of the opening of their canceled sequel. Just like the first movie, the sequel would have started with a big, gruesome kill, most likely unrelated to the rest of the movie, just to set the tone for it. The scene, set in winter, would have had Jason killing a young woman at Crystal Lake on the zip line, with Jason meeting her on the other end, machete in hand. 2009's Friday the 13th had a more brutal Jason, and the sequel would have pushed the first movie's boundaries, being bloodier and expanding more on this version of Jason. Now, that zipline kill, and that I thought they were going somewhere else with that. It was going to be set in the snow, which I wasn't aware of at the time. Either it didn't say in the initial tweet, or I didn't read that part in the script. Due to the main setting of the Friday the 13th franchise being at Camp Crystal Lake, none of the movies so far have been set in the winter. Some fans have imagined what a Friday the 13th story set in the winter would be like, so the sequel having its opening scene set in the winter would have finally fulfilled a big franchise wish, even if, for the rest of the movie, it went back to the summer setting with the reopening of the camp. The idea of taking Friday the 13th and Jason Voorhees to a winter setting can still happen in any of the planned projects for the franchise, but first, it's to be seen if any of them will truly move forward and who will be in charge of it, given the above-mentioned problem with the rights to the franchise and Jason Voorhees. Alright, so we talked about the opening scene, the zipline kill set in the winter, and the scrapped sequel, which I don't really care about. I didn't want to see any more from this after I watched this movie in the theater. I was completely let down by this movie. I had no desire for this to move forward. In these hands, I hated this movie. I hated it. And even though I've softened on a few aspects of it, which are mainly the way the kills look, this was not Jason to me. It just didn't do it. It didn't have that aesthetic. And the modern setting does not work for this franchise. I don't understand why these people will not get that through their heads. This movie needs to live in the 80s. This franchise, this character needs to live in that world. 80s, 90s at best. But modern Jason is just trash. It really is. It doesn't work. We'll talk about the rights situation here. This is an article from Collider. Tommy the Guinea Pig Collective shared this with me. Big shout out to my fellow horseman. Miller disagreed that he was a work-for-hire writer, and this is the topic of who won the lawsuit. According to his lawyer, the script was commissioned as part of a film. This was the crux of Miller's legal issues. There was never anything presented to Miller that said the script was work made for hire. The district court judge in 2018 ruled in favor of Miller. He agreed the screenplay for Friday the 13th was not a made-for-hire work. It was in his ruling Miller was an independent contractor. It was a big win for Miller, but not the end of his fight because, of course, Cunningham would appeal. The lawsuit thankfully came to a complete end in September of 2021. It was here the second U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals held up Miller's win that he was an independent contractor and not an employee of Cunningham, hired to write the screenplay. This meant he reclaimed the rights to the Friday the 13th franchise. It wasn't a complete win for Miller in regard to control of the direction of the franchise because Sean S. Cunningham kept control of the foreign rights for one. There was also one more key piece of information that didn't make the next step so clear. And I'm so sick and tired of this. I'm so sick and tired of this lawsuit. Sean Cunningham didn't want to make any more of these movies. He only wants money, all right? So I'm sorry, but you, Sean Cunningham. You, buddy. Just all the way off. All the way off because you're the one that told Adam Marcus,
just take off your goddamn mask.
And Jason Goes to Hell. Well, that's not a Friday the 13th movie. That is an abortion. Piss poor writing, and just shit. The movie is shit from start to finish. I hate it. I hate everything about it. The only cool thing was seeing the opening scene with Jason, but I hate the way Jason looks. That was the only part of that movie that actually felt like a Friday the 13th movie. Body Jumping Worm, the Necronomicon, Jason's a Deadite. Off. But all the way off with Jason being a Deadite. Jason never I don't care how big of a Evil Dead, Jason doesn't need to Jason and Freddy versus Ash. No, get the out of here. Freddy versus Jason was a movie too.
He's out of line, but he's right.
I don't care. That movie. New Line Cinema's the house that Freddy built. All right. They were never going to treat Jason right in that. Never. Never. You can say, he cut Freddy's head off. He was walking away with his head at the end. Surprise, surprise, all in your eyes. That movie. New Line Cinema having Friday the 13th and Platinum Dunes as a stable, a record label, and a damn crew. If you down with Platinum Dunes, then you too. Little Tupac there in honor of Jada Pinkett.
My wife's name out your mouth.
I don't understand why they just, okay, look here, you can have royalties. If somebody wants to create a new version of this, and this is the thing, like if I was Miller, I would write in, I have discretion on direction of it. You know, if they're like, we want to do like what they did with the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie on Netflix. Miller got the rights back, but of course, because Jason wasn't in the first one, dipshit Cunningham kept control of the IP from the sequels. So Miller only wrote the first movie, so he retains the IP for that. Miller wanted to greenlight a movie called Friday the 13th about camp counselors getting killed by Jason, so be it. There was just one major flaw. Jason was not in the original Friday the 13th film. As Ghostface will be happy to remind you, it was his mother, Mrs. Voorhees, who was the killer. Jason was in that. In the end of the movie, he popped out of the water, not in his adult form, but Jason was in the movie. Therefore, he should be able to be used. I mean, I don't care if you have to take it back to like Potato Sack Jason. Actually, I do. I don't want to see Potato Sack Jason again, or Pillowcase Jason, whatever you want to call him. So this brings into question the Crystal Lake prequel series, which back in 2022, as I'll go over to this article from November 4th. So this was Bryan Fuller talking about what they could use in the prequel series. He said everything. We can use everything. We can go to hell. We can go to space. That's not to say we'll do those things. Also, if we do go 10 seasons, I'll be lobbying hard to go to space, Fuller joked. A24 and Mark Toberoff, who is Victor Miller's lawyer, have beautifully and excruciatingly assembled all of the Friday the 13th rights. As a streaming service, we have the rights to do everything
you want.
Under the Friday the 13th umbrella.
Everything.
The movie rights are a completely different thing. They are tied up at New Line and are super, super messy and probably won't be untangled anytime soon. But as far as us chickens in the television industry, Roost, we have access to anything and everything under the Friday the 13th umbrella and what they've done up to this point. That's where I think it should stay, is with Victor Miller. I'm not really keen on the streaming series aspect of this, but I am cautiously optimistic about the project moving forward. And Sean Cunningham, again, you, buddy. He didn't want to do a sequel in the first place, but he did anyways, a cash grab, and it spawned all the ensuing sequels up to part 8, which after that I don't really care. I don't, honestly. I could care less about anything after Jason Takes Manhattan. Say what you want about that movie, but I will take that over anything that has come since that they've released that's been called Jason or Friday the 13th, 2009, Jason X, Jason Goes to Hell, Freddy versus Jason. That's all garbage. There's 8 Friday the 13th movies that matter, and then there's 4 films that really are inconsequential to anything and everything. Jason's not a deadite. Jason is not possessed by a body-switching worm, because somebody ate his heart. Jason's not Uber Jason outer space. Freddy versus Jason never happened. And Jason is not a mongoloid redneck who builds traps and tunnels under the ground. It's not happening. He's not a f***ing troll. This is the portion of the video which I had better news, but I don't have any updates on the Crystal Lake prequel series, as the writer's strike just ended, but the actor strike is still going on because God knows they're all underpaid, aren't they? So there has been literally 0 updates, and I went through Bryan Fuller's Twitter, I went through A24's, I went through the people in the writing room, so I have not seen any updates. I've combed the internet.
We're told to comb the desert, so we're combing it.
And literally...
Found anything yet?
Nothing.
We ain't found shit!
But wait, there's more.
There was the article 7 days ago on Joe Blow Horror, and it really wasn't anything new. The right situation, which we went through in the video a little bit here, it's set from that Collider article that Tommy shared with me. Miller has been awarded the copyright to the 1980 classic as well as non-exclusive foreign rights. And to get this TV show rolling, has teamed up with his lawyer Mark Toberoff and Rob Barsemian, an investor in the original Friday the 13th franchise, who has a stake in the rest of it. Due to the involvement of both Miller and Barsemian, Fuller will be able to use anything he wants from the existing Friday the 13th franchise as he makes Crystal Lake. From Mrs. Voorhees to every variation of Jason, it's all fair game. So that, again, that's the only update we really have on the series. And I know it kind of contradicts the article, but I think it might have to do more with the fact that this is going to streaming as a series as opposed to a film with the cinematic release, which we heard of the Blumhouse attempt to get this to reboot it, and God knows that's terrifying. But that's about the only other update I have at this time of filming. There you have it, folks. There's my thoughts. Rather angry, which I do apologize for, but you know what? I'm passionate about this because I truly love this franchise, and it's what inspired me to start writing a fan film for it. So, again, there you have it, folks. I'm Etep Wakui, and now I want you to let me know what you think in the comments below. Am I right, wrong, indifferent? Am I off base? Let me know. Write it down there. Subscribe. Hit the bell for notifications. Just know that I'm asking you to do this because YouTube is absolutely throttling my channel, my views, and I'm just kind of asking for just a little bit of a hand here from you folks if you're seeing the video. Subscribe. It's free. It always will be. It doesn't matter. Just subscribe. Hit the bell. And if you want to join as a channel member, you are absolutely welcome to. It's there if you want. If not, you know what? You don't have to. Over on Teespring, search New Wakuian Order or Going In Raw or The Place to Be Reviews. Boom. There comes our merchandise, folks. Shirts, hoodies, hats, kids, men's, women's, whatever you want. There's clothing there for both genders, because there's only 2, and your kids too as well. So there you have it. I'm Etep Wakui from The Place to Be Reviews. I've been here with all these. If I don't see you, have a great day, a pleasant tomorrow, and I will catch you on the next one.